together in the heart, unite and bind together the heart, join the chord of the soul, join in the chord of the soul. His face is radiant through the light of thy oneness. Unite and bind together the hearts. Unite and bind together. Joining the chord of the soul. Oh Lord, make His faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Unite and bind together.
O you kind Lord, O you who are generous and merciful, we are the servants of thy threshold and are gathered beneath the sheltering shadow of thy divine unity. The sun of thy mercy is shining upon all, and the clouds of thy bounty shower upon all. Thy gifts encompass all, thy loving providence sustains all, thy protection overshadows all, and the glances of thy favor are cast upon all. O Lord, grant thy infinite bestowals, and let the light of thy guidance shine. Illumine the eyes, gladdens the hearts with abiding joy. Confer new spirit upon all people, and bestow upon them eternal life. Unlock the gates of true understanding and let the light of faith shine resplendent. Gather all people beneath the shadow of thy bounty and cause them to unite in harmony so that they may become as the rays of one sun, as the waves of one ocean, and as the fruit of one tree. May they drink from the same fountain. May they be refreshed by the same breeze. May they receive illumination from the same source of light. Thou art the giver, the merciful, the omnipotent. Abdu'l-Baha, Baha'i Prayers, pages 100 to 101.
Reading 2. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brother dwell in unity, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. May God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face to shine upon us, that they may be known upon earth, thy saving power among all nations. Let the peoples praise thee, O God. Let all the peoples praise thee. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy, for thou dost judge the people with equity and guide the nations upon earth. Let the peoples praise thee, O God. Let all the peoples praise thee. Old Testament Psalms.
Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto ye, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Brikha, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and the remembrance that thy brother had owed against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Ye have heard that it had been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the just. New Testament, Matthew 5.
And hold fast altogether by the rope which God has for you, and be not divided among yourselves, and remember with gratitude God's favor on you. For you were enemies, and he joined your hearts in love, so that by his grace you became brethren. And you were on the brink of the pit of fire, and he saved you from it. Thus doth God make his signs clear to you, that you may be guided. Be not like those who are divided among themselves and fall into disputations after receiving clear signs. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes. that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of God is he who is the most righteous of you. And God has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. The Holy Quran.
Be united, speak in harmony. Let your minds apprehend alike. Common be your prayer. Common be the end of your assembly. Common be your resolution. Common be your deliberations. Alike be your feelings. Unified be your hearts. Common be your intentions. Perfect be your unity.
It is incumbent upon every man in this day to hold fast unto whatsoever be prompt the interest and exalt the station of all nations and just governments. Through each and every one of the verses which the pen of the Most High had revealed, the doors of love and unity have been unlocked and flung open to the face of man. We have erewhile declared, and our word is the truth. Consort with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. Whatsoever had led the children of men to shun one another and had caused dissensions and division amongst them, had through the revelation of these words been concord with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. Whatsoever had led the children of men to shun one another and had caused dissension and division among them, had through the revelation of these words been nullified and abolished.
All right, I think you muted yourself.
I'm sorry, that's okay. Somebody, okay. Nullified and abolished from the heaven of God's will, and for the purpose of ennobling the words of being of the elevating the minds and souls of men, had been sent down that which is the most effective instrument for the education of the whole human race, the highest essence and the most perfect expression of whatsoever the peoples of old have either said or written, had through this most potent revelation been sent down from the heaven of the will of the all-possessing, the ever-abiding God. Of old it had been revealed. Love of one country is an element of the faith of God. The tongue of grandeur had, however, in the day of his manifestation proclaimed, it is not his both who loveth his country, both who loveth his country, but it is his who loveth the world. Baha'u'llah.
The purpose of one true God, exalted be his glory, in revealing himself unto men, is to lay bare those gems that lie hidden within the mind of their true and inmost selves, that the diverse communions of the earth and the manifold systems of religious belief should never be allowed to foster the feelings of animosity among men, is in this day of the essence of the faith of God and his religion. These principles and laws, these family established and mighty systems have proceeded from one source and are the rays of one light. That they differ one from another is to be attributed to the varying requirements of the ages in which they were promulgated. The utterance of God is a lamp whose light is this word: "You are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch. Deal ye one with another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship. He who is the day star of truth beareth me witness. So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. The one true God, he who knoweth all things, himself testifieth to the truth of this word." Baha'u'llah.
O children of men, know ye not why we created you, all from the same dust, that no one should exalt himself over the other? Ponder at all times in your hearts how we were created. Since we were created you, all from one same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth, and dwell in the same land, that from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest. Such is my counsel to you on contours of light. Heed ye this counsel, that you may attain the fruit of holiness from the tree of wondrous glory. Baha'u'llah Hidden Words, Arabic 63. 68.
From light's place I left, from you everlasting abode. From the place I left, I was joined by an excellency from life. The excellency who joined me from life's house held the staff of living water in his hand. The staff he held in his hand was entirely leafy from end to end. He gave me some of its leaves. My sick heart found recovery. Once again, he gave me some of it, and the books became full. For the third time, he gave me some of it, and he fixed my eyes in my head. Within my head, he fixed my eyes, and I saw my father and knew him. I saw my father and I saw him, and I gave him 3 requests. I asked him for a great heart, which can be carried by the big and the little. I asked him for calmness, in which there is no rebellion. I asked him for a level path, to rise to light's place in peace. He triumphant, life speaks, and the man who went here triumphs. from the Mandaean book of John the Baptist.
O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all. Thou dost shelter all. Confer us life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all, let the religions agree, and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole world as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind. Abdul Baha.
The sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? I see a man dying, crawling through the desert, struggling to survive. He was praying to God to deliver him from his thirst, and begging not to die. The sweetest water in the world, sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world, sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? I see the world crying, drowning in a sea of dust, needing love to quench its thirst, searching for answers, searching to understand. Yet things are getting worse. We're looking for the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world, sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? I see the blessed beauty standing with outstretched arms, a look of love in his eyes, and flowing from his hands like crystal mountain springs, the pure water of life. He's got the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water, the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world, the sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? Why don't we drink it? The sweetest water in the world. Sweetest water. The sweetest water in the world. Sweetest water. The sweetest water in the world. Why don't we drink it? The sweetest water in the world. Sweetest water. Sweetest water in the world.
Thank you very much to the readers. Now, I have a particular interest in today's topic because as a child, I was told that Mandaeism, sometimes called the religions of the Sabaeans, is a true religion from God and that it still existed in the world. So for the past 55 years, I've wondered, where are they? And Wikipedia says the Mandaeans have remained separate and intensely private. I did not imagine that they could be found. And now Mr. Perry has discovered a leader in the Mandaean religion right here in Sydney. Professor Brikha Nasoraia's list of qualifications and publications and accomplishments in the field of religious knowledge and understanding is too long to recount in full now, so I'll just summarize as follows. Ganzibra Professor Brikha Nasoraia is the High Priest of the Mandaeans in Australia and the President of the International Mandaean Nasoraian Supreme Council and the Nasoraian Mandaean Association. He is a Professor of Arabic, Semitics and History of Religions at Mandaean Tuğlu University in Turkey and the University of Sydney. He is a researcher at Macquarie University Archaeology Department. He has obtained 4 doctorates in various fields of humanities and is working on the 5th one. And something which is not on Professor Nasoraia's CV, which I found by my own research, is that he has a deep understanding of compassion. So everybody please mute yourself if not already. I see everyone's behaving well. And I invite Professor Nasoraia to begin his presentation on the Mandaean religion. Welcome.
Hello to everyone, and thanks for inviting me to this wonderful group. And I hope I can introduce the Mandaeism or the Mandaean religion to you in a short way, according to the time limit that we have tonight. Is my voice clear to everyone?
Yes, yes.
Very good.
Okay, so the presentation just all right. So the title would be The Mandaean Religion and the Last Semitic Gnostics, Baptism, Living Water, and the link to Yahya Yohanan or Yahya ben Zachariah, John the Baptist. So who are the Mandaeans? Mandaeans are the one of the Semitic nations, very unique minority group. They are minority nowadays because of persecution and the limited number and some other reasons. We will come to that later. And they originated in the Middle East. They lived in the last 2,000 years in Iraq and Iran. They live always by the rivers and living waters. And they consider to be the last surviving Gnostics from antiquity, and they are pre-Christian religion, but they are very well connected to Abrahamic faith and non-Abrahamic faith, and I will discuss that probably later. But the Mandaeans attract the attention of Europeans because they hide for many centuries in the marshes of Iraq and the villages in the south and the middle of Iraq for many centuries, until they attract the attention of Western scholars. And they believed at the beginning they are the lost groups, Christian groups, who they belong to John the Baptist, but then they discover they are totally different religion and different group than Christians. They survive many persecutions in Jordan Valley, Syria, as well as Iraq and Iran. They preserved their religion in a very unique way. That's why they survive to the present day, despite all the persecution. So they have strong root and strong beliefs and belief system, which is connected, as I mentioned earlier, to the Gnosticism. Just a brief words about Gnosticism. Gnosticism is not one group, or the Gnostic religions, they are not one group, but they share a certain kind of certain characters. The major one is self-knowledge, or the knowers. So Mandaeans is one of them, and the word Manda itself means enlightenment. Mandaeans, it means the enlightened one. So those who preserve the true enlightenment. And this group of people, they have a very strong connection between philosophy, belief system, and rituals. So the combination of all of that reflected in their daily life, as well as in their beliefs and in their sacred holy writings. They lived in Iraq for the last probably 20 centuries. And they mentioned in the Quran in the name of Sabaeans. So the majority of scholars believes that the Sabaeans, which is mentioned in Quran, refers to the same group, which is the Mandaean. And Sabaeans derived from the Aramaic Semitic word, or from the verb sba, which means to baptize. So Sabaeans means the baptizers, which is also describe their main ritual, which is baptism and water, immersing in the water. We'll come back to that point as well later. But they have been mentioned 3 times in the Quran as a people of book, or along with the people of book, like Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, and so on. They receive some kind of protection during among the Muslims. However, they faced persecution from time to time, and they play a very important role during the Muslim periods, from the beginning of Islam, from the 1st century to the present day. So most of them, they translate the knowledge of the world from various cultures, especially from the Greek, Roman, and Babylonian and Persian cultures into Arabic and Muslim culture. So they played an important role as scientists, as doctors, and so on. So they are very famous in the Arabic Muslim resources or sources. Sorry. However, recently, especially during the Gulf Wars, they faced great persecution, especially after 2003, during the invasion of, the coalition and the American invasion to Iraq, and also during the revolution of, Shiite revolution in Iran. So they face in both Iraq and Iran a great persecution and various kind of severe persecution, and many of them being killed, kidnapped, and so on. So the majority used to live in Iraq, and like 2/3 living or more living in Iraq, and the other part lived in Iran. However, after 2003, the number reduced dramatically to, for example, approximately 60,000 used to live in Iraq. Now it's less than 5,000. Also in Iran, they used to have approximately like 10,000 or more, probably 15,000. However, nowadays it's less than 3,000 probably. The number of priests as well dropped dramatically. Center of the Mandaean religion is what they call Mandi, the place of worship, or the Mandaean Beit Manda, the house of knowledge. It means the house of enlightenment. By the way, they speak Aramaic, which is one of the Semitic languages. So special dialect. So the temple, I believe that God can be worshipped anywhere. So they worship one God, and they do prayer, and they are connected to the house of knowledge or house of enlightenment, Mandi or Beit Manda. And also it is the sacred space, also contains the holy scriptures of Mandaeans, and also the place where the major rituals took place, including baptism, prayers, and meditation, marriage ceremonies, even some funerary rituals and celebrations. So it's the center of the Mandaean community. So Mandaeans very well known by wearing white clothes, and that's one of the reasons why they are being easy to be identified by neighbors, and also easy to be persecuted in the Middle East. So they wear white, when they practice, when they pray, and even especially for religious people, they wear white all the time. So that garment called rasta, which is a sacred white dress. As I said, it's the official Mandaean religious dress. Whenever they perform any kind of rituals, they wear this cloth, which is from pure cotton or silk material. Symbolizes light, purity, and life. So the language, as I mentioned, is an Eastern Aramaic branch of Aramaics. So there are classic Mandaic, in which, recorded the holy books and scriptures recorded in that classic Mandaic, and the language still alive. However, only a few hundreds speak this language, but it's mostly a ritual language. It's become nowadays, so it's in danger of being lost. We try in our programs to revive the language as well as the culture. So the modern Mandaic need to be, protected. Mandaeans known in various terms. The major one, the official one, is Mandaean, which means, as I explained, it means the knowers who have the deep knowledge or deep enlightenment or true enlightenment. Also, the other one called Nasoraeans. Nasoraeans is the mystic elite Mandaeans. So the selected ones, the ones who obtain deep knowledge and great wisdom, great enlightenment or true enlightenment. And one of the other ones is, as I mentioned, Sabians, which means the baptizers, Muftasile in the Arab, especially they known by the Arabs or the Muslims by Sabians or Muftasile as well. Also, it means baptizers, the one who wash themselves in the running water. So the Mandaean scriptures, they have a very large body of scriptures. When you compare it to their number nowadays, which is approximately 70,000 or 80,000 exist in the world, but they have a great body of literature, sacred literature, and it contains great knowledge. So some of them are in the form of books, and the majority are in the forms of scrolls. They are written only on paper or papyrus, also on metals. They don't write on leather or other prohibited material, because they are very pacifist, so they are not allowed to kill animals or to kill anybody. They are not allowed to fight or to carry weapons, even for self-defense. So that's why it's being used against them, because they are not allowed to kill anything. So the major Mandaean holy book is, they called Ginzarabba, the Sidred Adam. Ginzarabba means the great treasure, the book of Adam. So it's called also Sidra Rabba or Sidra Adam. which explains, of course, about God, creation, and the universe. They have very limited passages on historical events. So the book is not, I mean, when you compare it, for example, to the Bible, or especially the Torah, we would find it, I mean, lots of historical events and elements. However, in Mandaeism, it's mostly about the creation, about enlightenment, about life, love, peace, harmony, enlightenment, and also about the truth of the universe, and about death and life after death, and so on. So it contains two parts, right and left. The second holy book is called Drashi Edyehye, or Drashi Edmelki. It means the teachings of John the Baptist, or the teachings of the kings. It means the angels in this case. The other book, which is called Kolesta, it's a collection or the canonical prayer book of the Mandaeans. And also they have large number of secret and sacred scrolls. So Mandaean is also considered as a monotheistic religion, but in a unique way. So they believe in one God called Hayy Rabbi, it means the great living one. Also, it calls Melka Denhura, the king of light. Also refer to the first life, first emanation, which is created by him or herself, you know. Right. So there are some descriptions to God, also described or called the great mind, or the father of all the universe, the father of angels, the infinitive truth, Kushta, it's called. So regarding the founder of the Mandaean religion, this is one of the major problems, I mean, within the students of or researchers in this field. So there is no earthly founder for the religion, and also it's considered as proto-religion and established. Mandaeans believe that their religion exists even before the creation of humans and before the creation of Earth itself. So it's been practiced by the other beings or other creatures exist in other parts of the universe. And this is also including the angels and different kind of creatures that exist in the universe. So Mandaeans believe that life and living beings exist in many parts of the universe, and they divided the universe into two. One is the like material universe, which we can reach, and the one is the beyond. And they believe that before the beginning there was no beginning. That means God exists before the beginning, and the truth exists before the beginning that we know. So Mandaeans believe in endless Big Bang theories. or Big Bang truth, from which many universes and many lives exist. And this picture, as you can see, or this diagram, is from one of the scrolls called the Big Bang of the image of truth. Literally, I'm translating. It's called Kadaha Rabba Edidmut Kushta. It means the great creation or the Big Bang of the image of truth or the likeness of truth. So everything you see in the Mandaean religion, teachings, rituals, and scriptures reflect these points, which is how the universal beings practice their lives, practice their rituals, and their belief systems, and so on. So it means here, they believe in Adam as the first great teacher or great master, Adam and Eve, from which all true humanity came. However, Mandaeans believe that, according to the Mandaean calendar, Adam exists approximately nearly 500,000 years ago. However, they believe that Adam, before the complete form, it was exist on earth as well. But until the soul came into the body, before that there was only spirit in his body. So it means the soul represents also the mana, or mana in Mandaeism means the mind, which is also connected and part of the great mind, which is God. So the first great teacher is Adam, then his son Seth, son of Adam, and Enoch or Anush, son of Seth, and then Shem or Sam, son of Noah, of the flood, then John the Baptist, which is also known in various names, but he is considered as the last of the great grandmasters. It calls in Arabic Yahya bin Zakaria, also called John, son of, or Yahya, son of Zechariah, or John, son of Zechariah. So there are many stories about him in Jewish sources, Christian sources, Islamic sources, and so on. So there are major 5 foundations of Mandaeism, which is faith, baptism, fasting, blessed alms, and prayers. So faith, I'll go briefly on these so we can catch up with the time. I just want to see how much time is left. Okay, so faith, which is believe in God and his creation, the worlds of light, because they believe there are endless worlds which are beyond our realms. So also they believe in some kind of dualistic forces or tripartite systems, not only dualistic systems. They believe in the great teachers and masters, saving knowledge, which is the base of everything. So they don't need an earthly savior. They need only a spiritual guidance, which is the connection between this realm and the other realm through self-knowing and through meditation and through enlightenment. So prayers, they have 3 times a day, facing north, 1 in the early morning, 1 in the midday, and the 1 before sunset. So they don't do rituals after sunset. only one time a year, which is in certain prayers. Anyway, so the prayer called the Brikha, so they gather and during the prayer also, and during the baptism, there is self-baptism and there is collection ones, blessed alms, so they have to also be compassion towards others and towards life, so they don't harm life, they don't have the river, they don't have harm the purity of the world, and also they have to save people and souls from persecution. That's why they are not only giving money, food, and shelter. However, they give also a guidance to people and offer lots of teachings of enlightenment to help people to survive and find the true path of enlightenment. Also, they practice fasting. There are two kinds. The small fasting, which is called Somazuta, little one, 36 days. They don't eat anything related to animal stuff. But the most important fasting is the great fasting called Somarabba. So it's all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and the whole year. It's not from food and drinking, but they must protect themselves from committing any sin, any false doing, any foolish stuff. And this is called, so to protect themselves from stealing or from saying lies or from looking at things that is not supposed to, and so on. So this is called the great fasting. And also the baptism, as I mentioned, it helped not to forgive the sins, as probably in some other tradition, especially the Christian tradition. It is to connect the person with the true reality and to be transformed to the other realms and to help and facilitate the connection between heaven and earth. That's why they use water as a method to reborn again. So the water become like a womb in which they reborn again and they go to a new life with enlightenment and with connection with the truth, with the angels and with God. So there are, in their rituals, they have to follow things precisely. So when you study Mandaeism, one of the most important things that you would recognize is they follow the rituals in details. Nothing should be broken by the priests or by the people. So because they have to keep the true connection with enlightenment and with the other realms and with other forces of the universe. They have festivals they practice, especially they have 4 major festivals during the year. Also, they perform baptism every Sunday. Also before wedding, any Sunday, and also if any kind of defilements, spiritual or material defilement, so they have to baptize. That's why they lived by the rivers, and every day they do self-baptism. So there are many kinds of baptism. One of them is self-baptism, and the other one through the priest. As I said here, many types. So as you can see, these images, I'll go through that quickly to save some time. So they call the living water, which is it's like a womb, as I mentioned, and also to infusion, it's like an infusion of the radiant light, and also connect them or fill them with the seeds of life and light. So it's like connecting with the cosmic stream of the divine enlightenment or divine water. So it's done in many stages, but the priest tried to facilitate and create what we call like stargates. So they prepare the land where the baptism done. They prepare the land to be energized with light and radiance, and they create a connection between heaven and earth. The priests do certain kind of prayers and entering the water, bringing, opening like a gate into which the souls and people can go through and reach the other part of the universe. So it's really a transformation in all kinds. So there is various kind of baptism, as I mentioned, self-baptism and full baptism and evolution. So the stages here, as you can see, the priest prepare the gate and calm the water, calm the energy. So the energy of the of enlightenment and the light and radiance would not harm the baptizers. So they have to calm the energy in order for people to come in to that gate, immerse fully in the water, and then as you can see how they go from left to right and stand on the right, then they have full immersion, and the priest also baptizing people. Then the other parts of the ceremony, which is initiation and crowning with the crown of peace and enlightenment. As you can see here, the leaves of special myrtle wreath, and they take the pact of truth, of enlightenment. This is after they finish from the water to the river bank again. So it means they join the world of light. They are not anymore on earth. So they become like a new Messiah kings. See, they prepare, first they sign them 3 times with the sesame oil. Then they give them holy bread and holy water. And then they bless them, they seal them, because it's like a new baby king or angel just born. So they have to protect that baby from any negativities. So they read certain kind of prayers for protection and for nourishment. And this is different groups of baptism. And there are certain kind of teachings in the scrolls as well, especially one of them called Scroll of Rivers and so on. So the baptism offers healing, sealing, blessing, and moral guidance to people. As you can see, So the baptized become like a Messiah king. It's like a rebirth, like an angel. And that's why all the process, it's precisely followed by everyone, and nothing been changed in the last like nearly 2000 years. That's why it's like time stopped for Mandaeans. They have to follow the same rules, the same rituals, the same prayers, the same process, which has been very effective, and people tested that kind of uniqueness and unique connection with the other reality, the true reality, they call it, or the reality of truth. So the teaching of John the Baptist and how he baptized Jesus and so on, there are a lot in this regard. I will skip some parts of it. So the teaching of enlightenment, which is linked directly also to John the Baptist, and with the water baptism and house of knowledge or house of enlightenment, and the initiation process. That's why the disciples of John the Baptist played an important role in the birth of Christianity and the thoughts and the teachings of early Christian fathers. And this has been some kind of complex issues for Christian scholars who tried to find the connection, the true connection between John the Baptist and Jesus, and also between the disciples of John the Baptist and the disciples of Jesus. So the situation of the Mandaeans now is very critical because of persecution, and they are everywhere in the world now, especially in all Europe, America, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and Middle East, even some other in Turkey and some other parts. So many of them, I mean, the majority are refugees anyway, and there are refugees still in waiting countries like Jordan, Syria, Turkey, and also some other countries. So they are facing to the present day a great persecution, and they need to be protected, especially in Iraq and Iran. So there is no much rights for them. There are many challenges, as you can see, but we try as a community leaders and also as people, I mean, many people try to help the Mandaeans to settle in the new homeland and try to, because one of the major issues that the Mandaeans is a close religion. They don't allow anybody to enter the religion or join the religion or join the community, and anyone who marry from outside, they will cut themselves from the community as well. So and they do not allow they marry from only within the community, and this is a must nowadays in Mandaism and in Mandai culture as well. So we work very hard to help the new generations, children, the youth, and to preserve our culture and our language and our belief systems, and also to save our people. There are many challenges, as I mentioned here. We try to overcome most of these difficulties. We established some religious and cultural centers everywhere in America, in Europe, in Australia as well. And despite all these challenges, we try to do certain kind of programs, which is like meditation classes, we got art classes, we got cultural ones, music classes. So they attract nowadays, especially recently, also the attention of the media to try to help the refugees and try to help the persecuted ones. So there are many suggested solutions for the situation that they face, which is face the Mandaeans. I don't want to get into that. But there is, of course, there is hope and future, great future for the Mandaeans, which we invest in our great culture, our great faith, and also our new generations. Thank you very much, and sorry that I probably took much of your time, but I tried to shortening many things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Nasoraia. And now that's started my learning about something new, which God revealed in ancient times, and which the Mandaeans have preserved for us. So I'm personally very appreciative. And I have some questions, but I'm going to discipline myself and put my hand up. But I'm going to give everyone else the opportunity also. Please use the under reactions at the bottom of your screen, click raise hand, and when you've said your question, lower your hand later, and try to keep it a single question to the point about the subject, not so much bringing our own views into it, but learning while we have this very short opportunity to learn from Professor Nasoraia. So Ahmed, you're first.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Nasoraia. It was very nice talk, and I really learned a lot about Mandaeans. My question is that there is another group in that area called Izadis. Is there any relationship between Mandaeans and the Izadis in your thoughts?
Yes, they called Yazidis or Yazidis.
Yazid.
Yes. You know that recently Daesh also did the great persecution to them in Mosul and nearby areas in Iraq. There is no direct connection between Mandaean and the Yazidis. However, probably there are some kind of similarities in certain areas, like the peacock angel. So there is also in Mandaism an angel called Yushaman, or the second life, which is also described as the peacock angel. And there are some other parts, which is also some characters, which is also bring them to the same Gnostic group. But there are major differences between Mandaism and Yazidis.
Ali and Peter.
Thank you, Professor Nasoraia. Really, it enlightened me to know about Mandaean religion. I understand the persecution that the members of this faith have gone through. I come from that part of the world, so I understand it. But really, I never had the knowledge of the existence of such a religion, even Yazidis as well, till last few years that I became aware of Yazidis in Australia, and now about Mandaeans religion. But my question is in regard to the Holy Scriptures that you mentioned. There are so many Holy Scriptures in the religion. And then you mentioned that there is no earthly founder as such. You go from Adam, goes right to John the Baptist and those four leaders that you mentioned. So how these scriptures are written if there is no earthly leaders as such? So who wrote these Holy Scriptures as such? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a good question, actually. in Mandaean tradition, when you read the Holy Scriptures, especially the major ones, which is the Book of Adam or the Ginzarabba, the Great Treasure, and the other books, you will see that there is something called the colophon, which is recording the history of this scripture, and they have a very strict tradition in writing the lineage of the scribes or the copyists. For example, I copied this copy from the copy of this master, and he copied from that one, and you can follow this up to more than approximately 2,000 years. And this is done by some Western scholars, research and some publications on this topic. So the question again, so when you follow this, it ends with the great grandmasters, and they said that there was some kind of inspirations from angelic beings, like from angels, and the angels took it from the great life or God, the living one. So, but there is no, like they don't say this is the book which is, you know, found or written by this or that, like in some other books, like in Quran with Muhammad and so on. So that's why nobody claimed that they wrote this or that kind of, you know, holy scripture.
Thank you.
Professor, you mentioned that scrolls are being discovered. I think you mentioned 76, and they're holy, but also secret. And I'm just wondering, because the Mandaean community is often under threat and we can't become Mandaeans, is there any hope for people to discover these secrets and to enter these other worlds?
Yes, actually, when the Mandaean come in contact with the Western scholars, the first scroll which is reached the Vatican was 4 centuries ago, in the 16th century, but not been translated. There was rough ideas which is described here and there by the fathers, the Christian fathers, who took somehow that scroll. It's called Diwan Abathar. It means the progress of the soul in the purification stations, the journey of the soul. Anyway, so there are scholars believe that there are approximately 24 or 24 scrolls. There are many. It's not 76, but there are many more. And some of these being translated into various languages. The majority are translated nowadays into English by a famous Mandaean scholar called Lady Drawa and Kurt Rodolph, as well as some other scholars. So the major books, the major holy books as well, being translated by Mark Lisparsky into German language, especially the first 3 ones, and then 2 of them being translated into English. But still the major one, which is the Holy Book, is not yet to be translated academically into English language. There are rough translation into English, but it's not reliable. Sorry. So it's waiting to be translated into English. To get back to your question, which is how to preserve the knowledge, since it is being secret. It's the problem is not only translating the contents of the secret sacred scrolls, but the other problem is it's written in a codic language, and it should be understood in many levels, and it's meant to be understood by certain kind of groups, which is the Nasoraeans, the elite ones. So when you read it, you can understand certain kind of level of that. However, it's coded and decoded by certain people or chosen ones, let us say. And that's why we try to preserve this knowledge in two ways. One is the academic way. We try to reveal part of this knowledge. However, we still practice the secret teaching among the Mandaeans and especially among the Nasoraeans. And I'm working on the translating of the most important secret scrolls. But we have also an important scrolls which is not being mentioned by any Western scholars or even any Mandaean scholars. I'm working still on it in certain projects with the university and within the community, and hope that we will preserve this knowledge for many generations, and also we share it with the world as well. It's not only our knowledge, but it's also meant to bring peace and enlightenment and everlasting life to everyone on earth, in the universe, actually, not only on earth.
Thank you. That's that makes me happy. Mr. Perry.
I think, I don't know whether Jung has already raised her hand, because her background is yellow in color, so we don't see the hand. Do you want to go first, Jung?
No, you're first. You're in sequence there. Don't worry, and Jung is next.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Nasoraia. I am really grateful to you to have accepted and come and give us a talk about a religion that I didn't have much knowledge about. It is fascinating to see some of the things that you mentioned, especially some of the words that you used. The Mandi is the temple, and in Indian language, they use Mandir as a temple, denotes temple. And you said the mind in your language as mana, and in our language also it's mana. There is some connection. And also I heard from other YouTube messages, the peacock is a sacred thing in your religion. And in the Hindu, especially the Saivas, the Tamils, the Lord Muruga, his special animal is a peacock, and it's considered as holy as also. There's some connections. I don't know. You have done archaeology. I don't know. You have found any connection between these things. But my question is this: your group, the Mandaeans, are a very small minority, and they have been persecuted in the Middle East. Now, to preserve these things, I mean. We live here in this country. I came from Sri Lanka, and here the indigenous people are a minority, and they are persecuted, or they are oppressed, or they are marginalized. How can we support you? How can we give you support for your protection?
Thank you. Yes, there is, for the first part of the question, which is the similarities with the some Hindu and Sanskrit terms. There are these ones that you already mentioned is true, and it's been acknowledged by many scholars like Mana and even the temple, despite not many, only probably Lady Drawer and one or two others mentioned this. Also the connection with the peacock, but one of the other thing is the use of water, you know, and the kanji, for example, river. Mm-hmm. I just in press, I have a book called the Rivers Scroll. It's an analytical study of this scroll, which is focused on the rivers of the world and their connection with the mystic water or mystic rivers of the universe, and how life started on Earth. And in a big chapter, I devoted to the comparison with the other tradition, including Hinduism and, you know, Christianity, Jewish, Akkadian, even ancient civilization, Buddhism, yeah, and Hinduism as well. So there is or there are great similarities among these traditions, and I believe, yes, it's all interconnected. And for certain, I have a theory actually on that, which is when you study the ancient worlds and especially the Middle East or the Near East, and when you study the civilization that exists in India, for example, and also in Iran or Persia, you will see that scholars believe that the connection between India and the rest of the world, especially the Near East, like Babylon or Persia, happened through water, through the ocean or the sea. Okay. However, in my recent research, I proved that there are other connections, not only through land, of course. I mean, it was in both, through land, through, you know, Afghanistan and, you know, some other parts until you reach Iran, and then from Iran to Babylon or to Iraq. And, you know, the Silk Road, of course, it's there for thousands of years. To China and to even other parts of the world. So the route is there, but the connection happens through water and through land. And that's the most important ones. And from that, you can see how Sanskrit language contribute into many other languages, including Latin language and, you know, other languages. So despite that the Semitic languages like Arabic or Mandaic or Hebrew, or, you know, they are a large group of family of Middle Eastern languages called Semitic languages, including Aramaics. So that group also interconnect with Sanskrit as well. And they adopt certain kind of terms, and also they give, so there is kind of interconnection. Yes. And this need to be searched further. And I used to visit India 2 or 3 times a year, and we do some kind of excavation there as well. And also I teach in certain universities with the philosophy program. but last year we didn't stop because of COVID. Anyway, the other part of the question, which is how you would help the Mandaeans and how to preserve their, culture and so on. We need every effort to help the Mandaeans, especially, raise the voice, help the refugees, reconnect people, because Mandaeans now scattered around the world, even in the same country. They are in many cities, like in America, they are in all states, in Australia and in Europe. And the immigration problem nowadays that they do not allow. I mean, it's very difficult to come from one country to another only for certain reasons. So there are certain difficulties we are facing, financial problems, and most importantly, it's the refugee problem, and also our people who are still remain in Iraq and Iran. So we are very concerned about their safety and their future. So probably preserving language and helping with the United Nations, with the UNESCO, and with other international programs and associations, probably to protect the Mandaeans and help them to understand their unique position and the vulnerable position they have nowadays.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Yung, then Zoraia, Ahmed, and then Nisha. Yung. Oh, you're muted, Yung.
Thank you so much for your lecture tonight. Professor Brikha, it's so interesting that you're talking about the lights, God and the angels, and the brightness of life, and you also talk about the earth, the archaeology, excavation of earth and everything. So it was like a multitasking, multi-talented professor. One thing I noticed that we mentioned about John the Baptist, who is talking about the coming of the Messiah. And when people see the Messiah mean Jesus, they still kill Jesus anyway. So I don't know if it was like a drama in life, or people can do better at that time. And also say, when people come down to Jordan to be baptized, mean they looking for peace, love, and unity and everything. But now, as you see, at the time of COVID-19, your people become refugee and being displaced people, move around all the different countries, and look like motherland is a dream. And I said, I'm worried about the children. I wonder if UNICEF or the United Nations, they should be playing a major roles, or human rights people in the international organization. You know that where we're being putting money in, just like for scholarship, for UNICEF, for kids. So whether the money come to them, and with your people, when they move to the different country, will they group together? Because if they group together, it's so much easier to help them. But if they scatter, it's very difficult to pinpoint who is who. So that's one thing. The second thing, the next year.
Oh, Yung, sorry, Yung, just one question at a time, and then you can go back later.
I'm just talking about International Women's Day for next year. If people in your group as women can step out and, sort of like the voice, they can speak up. And that would be helpful for us, because at the moment, as you say, people work inside their group, so we don't know who and who.
Thank you. I'll hand over to Professor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your comments. And yes, I mean, the teachings of Mandaean is, or the Mandaean teachings is very unique. And also it's connecting the East and the West. It's like bridging the Western tradition and the Eastern tradition. You know that even the religions and the beliefs and also the culture of the West is different than the culture of the East. You know the terms. So in Mandaeism, you will find lots of similarities, for example, with Buddhism, with Hinduism, with Taoism. At the same time, you will see a great similarities with the Brahmic faith, for example, with Baha'i faith, with Zoroastrians, and so on. The connection between John the Baptist and Jesus is one of the major things that's still being to be researched. Many people or many scholars did some research and publication on this topic and about the issue of the baptism itself, because according to the Bible or the New Testament, Jesus lived only 33 years and then he passed away, or he left this world. So 30 years of his life, nobody knows anything about it, okay, until the year of 30, when he came to John the Baptist to baptize in the Jordan, and he asked for that. According, there are different stories than that which is written in the New Testament about why and how and what happened and what kind of baptism and what kind of rituals being followed to baptize Jesus. It's all in the Mandaean teachings and Mandaean Holy Scriptures, especially the book of John the Baptist or the teachings of John the Baptist. That's why the issue of Messiah King in Mandaean tradition is not only for Jesus. So anyone who baptized with the baptism, with the holy baptism or the baptism of light, will reborn as an angelic being or as a chosen one, or in another term, as a Messiah King. When you follow the steps, as I mentioned quickly in the process, there is kind of anointing and initiation and crowning. So it's all to help that person to reach the level of an enlightened being. So if the person continue in that kind of purity without any defilement, that person would have a permanent enlightenment and permanent Messiah King status. But if there is kind of defilement or, become less enlightened, then he or she will lose that kind of status, and then that's why they lose the connection with the other reality, and that's what kind of punishment or that kind of sin. So the baptism itself is not a method to forgive the sins, but it's the method of putting that person in the right track, in the right gate, and pushing through to the other realms. So the other question that you have mentioned, how to help the Mandaeans, we got also a women group in every country, but most of these groups are small ones, probably not very effective, but we have in each country more than one women group who try to work within the community, and we got probably one group internationally, but still need to work more effectively. So if you have a group that we can also connect our group with yours, that would be great. You mentioned something regarding the UNICEF and the scholarship. Yes, this is, I think, an important matter. And if probably get in touch with you, probably you know an effective way to convince these kind of international offices or organizations to help and sponsor some, some Mandaeans or some people who wants to do some kind of studies or revival programs for Mandaean culture or language. And also there is another important issue which has been mentioned by one of my colleagues tonight, which is we have many ancient scriptures left in Iraq and Iran and being destroyed by, some kind of extremists, and some other ones which preserved not in a scientific way, because it's all in old papers, all old kind of material. They need to be, copied in a proper way and preserved the original, and also a proper way followed, certain kind of, modern way of preserving such a valuable material. So yes, I think we need to speak up, and we need to go more interconnect with other international organizations and groups. I have been working for many decades now on that, but we need to involve more with these international groups. And probably tonight is one of the, things that would probably facilitate and help in cooperation for future projects.
Thank you. Zora, you're next.
Thank you, Professor. I just want to know which cities in Iran did we have Mandaean, because I'm from Iran, but I never, maybe I don't know, I didn't notice them anywhere.
Yes, I was waiting for somebody because I forgot to mention where. So I was waiting for somebody to bring that issue. Anyway, they mostly lived in, nowadays they lived in Ahvaz or Khuzestan and nearby areas. In the past, not very far, but they used to live in Shushta, but every single Mandaean's been slaughtered in that city. They slaughtered, nobody survived, only probably few. That happened 2 or 3 centuries ago. And also persecuted in other cities in Iran. But they used to live in Dispol, in Mahammara or Khurramshaha. Some of them living in Iran, in Tehran, but the majority and the center is in Ahvaz, near Karun River. I've been there last year, which is my first visit to Iran. Also, we got some other villages or cities like Khafajiyya and Minau, and some little probably villages there, but the majority now in Ahvaz. And by the way, most of the Mandaeans to the present day, they work in jewelry field, so they are artists, and that's probably one of the reasons why they have been targeted and persecuted, because they are pacifist and peaceful people, and also work in art and in jewelry field. So when you go anywhere, for example, in Iraq, the majority of jewelers, they are Mandaeans in the past. Nowadays, because they mostly, fled these countries, many of them established their own businesses here. But usually the Mandaeans, through the history, they work with science, with mathematics, with the kind of, fields and art as well. And they are needed by their neighbors. So they are not farmers. They don't work in politics, but they do like carpentering, blacksmiths. This is in the past anyway. Nowadays, many of them are doctors, engineers, IT people, and so on. So they are very well recognized as very intelligent people in these countries, especially in Iraq. In Iran, nobody allowed to enter the university. You got to high school, that's it. You can't go to the university because there is one major reason. When you apply to the university, you have to fill a form. In the form, if you are not Jews, not Christian, and not Muslim, you cannot study at any university in Iran. That's why we got some people who falsely think they are, in different group just to study a little bit in the, university. And that's different than Iraq. Iraq, you can study anything, and many of them university scholars, and, they work everywhere.
You mean that you don't deny who you are? Like, some, like, I don't want to say some Muslim, but they can say yes or no. But Baha'is, we always say we are Baha'is if they ask. In Iran, I know the Baha'is also are not allowed at universities because of we are not Muslim.
Yes, I said we have few people that I know because they want to study in the university. They took they make that kind of choice on the forms, but the majority are very well known, and the government know about them, in Iran, and they are watching every movement.
Can the Mandaean marry Mandaean only, or they can marry with the other?
No, only Mandaean. And they don't accept converts.
They don't accept.
No.
Oh.
Thank you, Zora.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, Ahmed, you're next. It's possible for Nisha to go first, because she's.
I was going to say, Colin, Nisha hasn't spoken tonight. Do you want me to go first? Because I have two questions.
All right, Nisha, if you're there.
Yeah, hello, Professor. Thank you so much for talking to us about the Mandaean religion. Interestingly, I first heard about Mandaean when I was living in Penrith, and I was doing some research on the Nepean River just for my own, own interest. And the Mandaean community appeared in a link. And when I read about it, apparently the Nepean River in Penrith used to be one of the sites that the Mandaean community conducted the baptism on Sundays. And I used to run along the river very frequently, and not one time that I saw the Mandaean community. Likely I must have been running on the wrong side of the river. But what I would like to say is that one of the things that you mentioned earlier was about making the Mandaean community, probably more known to the rest of the, society by, to hear the voices of the Mandaean community. And I think one of the key ingredients to bringing people together and knowing each another is through food. So my question is, what is the connection between the Mandaean religion and food, basically, given the fact that the faith actually upholds no violence, and not only to fellow men, but animals as well? So do the Mandaeans practice predominantly a vegetarian diet?
Yes, thank you. And just to the first part of your comment is, yes, nearly 20 years now, we practice baptism and other ceremonies along the Nepean River, especially, the boat ramp?
Yes.
The major one?
Yes.
There is a park under the bridge, the M4 bridge.
Yes.
Just if you go a little bit further on the left end of the factory road, and that road probably, So there is a tench reserve, I think it's called tench reserve.
There's a boat club there.
Yes.
Is that the one? Yes.
Just beside,
right.
There is a park there.
Yeah.
And in the park down, the council made the stairs to help the Mandaeans go into the river, into the water easily without accident. So they put the stairs there. They gather on Sundays. You see them from a distance wearing white, or if you have a boat in the river, you can see them easily. And you have that, many boats, and from the other side of the river, they can see them easily. Anyway, so regarding the Mandaeans, and yes, we need to be more active within the interfaith programs and with other groups. And I used to do that along with many other Mandaeans or Mandaean leaders. Food, yes, considered something very important. Mostly the Mandaean, mostly vegetarians, but like if you compare it, like the Jews, they can kill certain kind of birds or animals, but should be in the Mandaean way. They have to wear white, they have to do certain prayers, and then with lots of baptismal rituals and purity rituals, and with witnesses. And after they kill that animal, they have to do prayers for forgiveness because they killed the soul. That's why most of the religious people, they try to avoid, eating meat. But it's in limited way. They eat fish in general, but killing animals, especially, mammals, they do not allow only some kind of birds and only probably male sheep. That's all. So I think we have some experience with some other intercultural groups who comes and, through producing certain kind of food, they introduce to each other, and they, they share stories and they share some kind of experience as well and advice.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time. Hoping we have time, Professor, for 2 more questions. And Ahmed, you're next, and then Seppi.
Oh, okay. I was having 2 questions, actually. I'll be brief. Professor, we know that John the Baptist, when he was baptizing people, he was also prophesying that a greater holy person will come after him. But you mentioned that he was one of the last of the teachers. There's a bit of conflict there. I was wondering whether you can discuss that a bit more. The other thing is that Mandaeans have the day of break as Sunday, and we know that the John the Baptist was living and Christ. They were living among the Jews, which was Saturday, the day of rest. And we are told that Christ changed the date. I was just wondering, is there a conflict there? Was it John and the Christ that changed the day of rest as Sunday? What's your thoughts about these 2 things?
Yes, this is a good question, actually. So for the first part regarding prophecies, yes, John the Baptist was a great healer and great master of enlightenment. He's not the last, but we call, like in Mandaean tradition, there is kind of prophecies and kind of cyclical, periods of time in which each period there are certain kind of great enlightened people appears to, give more inspirations, more teachings, and that it's through different time, different culture, different challenges, also need different interpretation, different kindness, and more of that. Yes, John the Baptist is well known as a healer. He, according to the Mandaean scripture, he was healing the blinds, the disabled, and he can heal by touching people, by doing kind of prayers for them, and by giving them, most importantly, giving them kind guide to be enlightened. So his teachings, his practice, and also his baptism was a great. That's why Jesus was, he couldn't even, according to the New Testament and some other references, Jesus couldn't start his mission, let us say, until around the death of John the Baptist, because after, according to the some resources, including the New Testament, he was for 40 days in the wandering and in the isolation and in a test for a while. Regarding the changing the Saturday and Sunday, in Mandaean tradition, they don't consider John the Baptist as a Jewish person. It's considered as a Mandaean person. And according to some, research that done in the last few decades, like in the last 2-3 decades, many scholars believe that John the Baptist belonged to a secret group, and many of them connect or identify that group with the Essenes and the people of the, the Dead Sea Scroll people, in which they practice also the healing arts, or the art of healing. So in Mandaean tradition, John the Baptist was not Jewish, and he tried to help the Jews and many other nations in knowing the right and doing the right things. Josephus mentioned that he was a very righteous person, and because Herodes contributed in his death, then he connects probably the destruction of the temple, the Jewish temple, with the death of John the Baptist, because they killed an innocent man or a righteous man. So I think the Sunday is very important in Mandaean tradition, and there is kind of explanation about this in the book of John the Baptist, how they do their rituals, and they make Sunday as a holy day, and they practice their normal life and rituals and everything on Saturday, not like the Jewish. And that's one of the major issues. Sunday, with the Christian story, probably something in this regard comes from Mandaeans. However, also probably that the effect of Roman culture and Roman traditions, and because the Sunday is a sun day, and that's why it's a holy day for them from the very beginning, because it's the day of light and the beginning, and that's one of the things that Christianity tried to not to get into conflict with the Gentile, because the first Christian father, they didn't open the tradition to other faiths. Only the Jews would follow Jesus or teaching and become Christians or follow Jesus. However, later they open it to the Gentile and to everyone, especially when Paul or Shaul and the teachings reach Rome with other disciples, and they establish there are two major things. One is acceptance non-Jews. Second, adopting Sundays as the holiday. And third is doing the baptism. So these are three major things, and also giving a great space for Mary, the mother of Jesus, because in the Roman tradition, in general, I'm talking now, not specifically, they have that kind of respect to female or to female gods as well. So there are some kind of interconnection between the Middle Eastern, or the, let us say, Syrian and Jordanian and Palestinian tradition with the other tradition, Roman tradition, and later Egyptian tradition, and also the Eastern Church in later centuries. So this kind of embracing cultures and make an openness to initiate as much as possible people to be introduced to the teaching of Jesus and the disciples was like a great revolution at that time, after, you know, a great persecution. So in any case, I believe, yes, there are some connection between John the Baptist and Jesus, and probably they contribute to change from Saturday to Sunday. And this is probably one of the major things that is, you know, could be noticed by anyone. And it seems that the relationship between John the Baptist, Jesus, and the Jewish and the Palestinian traditions, it seems to be deeper than what we know, especially after the discovery of secret Jewish and non-Jewish groups, certain kind of baptizer groups that appears in Syria, Palestine, Jordan, and in Egypt as well, and also in South Babylonia. These baptizer groups, it's very nowadays, many scholars try to solve the mysteries of this kind of relationship. One of the things that I would mention here tonight as well, that is the connection with the Manichaeans. Probably the Manichaean, or they know in Arabic, they are well known in Arabic as Al-Manawiyya. The Manichaeans, which appears by Mani, the founder, in the 3rd century. Also in the area where the Mandaeans used to live in South Mesopotamia. And certain studies confirm that this group, or Mani himself, or his father, being interconnected with Baptist groups, and most probably or possibly the Mandaeans. And even some PhDs and some studies confirm that some parts of the Mandaean holy book, the Ginza Rabbah, especially the left side, is literally being translated into some Manichaean scriptures. So, and Manichaeism become like a world religion at that time, most popular religion, even more popular than Christianity. And the first, like, until probably 10th centuries AD. So these kind of groups and probably the persecution of these groups in the Middle East, in Palestine and in Syria and some other places, probably one of the reasons why it was hidden or in, you know, in isolation, and why John the Baptist was in remote areas. Then they came to the center of cities, like to Jerusalem and to other cities, and they've been persecuted and probably killed in a brutal way because they tried to do some kind of changes in the in culture, and they tried to warn people that there is kind of, you know, they have to come back to the mainstream. And that's, I mean, basically, Jesus didn't bring a new religion, actually. He tried to warn people that you have to follow the word of God, which is in the Torah. And this is where they should follow things that is being, for example, in the temple, they made the temple as a place for, not only for worshiping and, prayers and all that. There are places for sacrifice, animals, selling and buying, borrowing money, and so on. And this is part of the revolution that Jesus, tried to turn the table and tried to warn people, please, the teachings of God is this, not that. Try to get it in the right way, and you have to follow, the teachings and in a peaceful way. And that's bring a conflict with the authority, for example, the Jewish authority and the Roman authority, because there's kind of social and cultural revolution in the area. And that's not good for, the people in charge, let us say, religious or, political.
Thank you, Professor. Time's moving on, and Seppi has a question.
Thank you very much to the organizers and to Professor Nasoraia. I've got a couple of questions. One of them is about where were the majority of the Mandaeans? Was it in Iraq or Iran or somewhere in between? And then the Mandaic language, is it just a language of scripture writing these days, or is it actually spoken? Like when you all meet, do you speak in Mandaean or modern Mandaean, or like what is the mother tongue of most Mandaeans? Is it Arabic? Is it Kurdish? Is it Mandaic? Then also with regard to the baptism, which you mentioned, like, do you have to wait for summertime when the weather is warm to be baptized in the rivers, or do you have like a special baptism place in the temples where the water is warmed, or like a warm pool, or how is it? And also because many of the rivers these days are polluted, so what happens there? And my last question is about, you mentioned the cycles and so on. So according to your scriptures, which cycle are we in, or are we about to enter, and what are we expecting, at this point in time for humanity in terms of the Mandaic prophecies of the cycles? Thank you very much.
Thanks for these questions. Very important, as I mentioned, the majority of Mandaeans used to live in Iraq and Iran, where, especially south of Mesopotamia, it's called. So at that time, Ahvaz, for example, most of the time used to belong to, to Babylon or to Babylonia. This is before Islam. Then when the Islam came, it's conquered the whole region anyway. So until the Turkish establishment in ruling the whole area, but they couldn't rule Iran because it was separate one. So most of the time, Ahvaz itself and nearby cities in southwestern Iran nowadays, they all mostly belong to the Turkish Empire. However, especially, Mandaean nowadays mostly lived with the Arabic-speaking people. Doesn't matter if it is in Iraq or Iran. But like more than 100 years ago, when Ahvaz been taken by Shahanshah, so it belongs more than 100 years till now to Iran in the political map. So our people trapped between these two countries because of the borders. But the majority of Mandaeans, as I said, more than 2/3 of Mandaeans used to live in Iraq nowadays, and the rest living in Iran. And during and after the first Gulf War, Mandaeans from both countries start to flee these countries. But all Mandaeans speak Arabic, all of them, in the past. In the past, we have few thousand speak Mandaic. Nowadays, we have only few hundred speak modern Mandaic, in their daily life. Mandaic become like a ritual language, especially the classic one, because you can't do any prayer or any ritual. You have to do it in Mandaic, especially the traditional one, which is the classic one. Now we try to revive the language, especially the modern Mandaic. And we have some small schools here and there. We have few things also online. You can probably watch some of these classes. This is basically it. Regarding the baptism itself, Mandaean used to baptize in the river summer and winter and any time. In the Middle East, when they used to live in the Middle East, even in winter, it's not too bad, the degree, so they can baptize. Less number, of course, in the winter, but they continue to baptize every Sunday, especially in the major festivals and celebrations. Nowadays, we have many Mandaeans used to live in Europe, especially in Scandinavian countries, in Sweden, in Finland, and some other, in Denmark, Holland or Netherlands, and some other places. Even in America, there are people live in Canada and America as well, in Western and some other places where it's frozen, below like 20 degree, 30 degree below. Some of Mandaean groups, especially in Europe, they established a mandi, which is they have like a swimming pool, but according to the tradition, it should be a running water, so always fresh water coming, and there is water running out, and they probably use some kind of air conditions and also heating water. So people also continue to baptize during winter. Yes. So the majority used to baptize in the fresh running water. Nowadays, we have some groups as well. They use tap water in new temples, which to a certain degree creates some kind of internal conflict, because some people want to go in the classic traditional way, despite all the challenges, weather challenges. They break the ice and go into the water in the rivers. Others try to facilitate the modern way of adopting things. So we try to accumulate all that stuff. The most important part is to, bring the culture and the teachings and all that to our new generations, which is a challenging one with globalization and European style of life and all this kind of IT revolution and so on. So we try to use technology and we try to use modern life to preserve also our culture, not to break the law, but to also to help in continuing practicing and continue our wonderful belief system.
Thank you very much, Professor. There was another question and also one in the chat, but
regarding the prophecies, sorry, I forgot that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Mandaean in their secret teachings, they have many prophecies, and they also and every Mandaean, they have their own calendar anyway, and that one it's nearly 480,000 something. So we believe that we are living in the last era or last circle, let us say, and that one started after the flood, the Noah flood, a few thousand years ago, and it will continue. So there was a major destruction in the world happen. There were 3 major ones which vanish most of life and humanity on earth 3 times. One done by fire, one done by disease and sword, one, the previous one, done by the flood, Noah flood. And we are waiting for the last one, which would happen by year. So there will be a pollution, but before that there will be a major 3rd World War, which would happen and probably demolish like 90% or 85% of human life, or any kind of life on Earth, and it would be like a new beginning for people, but it would continue for. It's not very close. It will happen, but there are some kind of prophecies which follow a certain kind of interpretation, and I wrote an article with one of my colleagues at Sydney University, Professor Gary Trumpf, called Mandaean Macro History. So you can probably consult that. It's published with Aram Academic Journal. Yes, so probably in Mandaean tradition, if there is no Mandaean in the world, there is no life on earth. So in our tradition also, one of our obligation is to pray and teach enlightenment, to promote light, life, peace, purity into the world. So one of the obligation and duty of the Mandaeans, especially the Nasoraeans, is to bring a balance into the world and into the universe. We act in a secret way to promote peace and love and harmony and integration within the world, within life on earth. Not only human being, but all kind of, forms of life. So part of the Mandaean secret teachings and secret life and secret rituals of Mandaeans is to make sure that life would continue. God called life, and life should continue forever. That's why they use water in every single details of their life. Preserving life, preserving life and purity in the world and in the universe would probably a great challenge for Mandaeans, but it is important. That's why they feel that they have a responsibility to bring that kind of balance, universal balancing, and try to eliminate all kind of, dark, let us say, dark forces or negative forces, and by promoting these kind of good things.
Professor, before I hand back to Mr. Perry, I just want to thank you very much. We quite an amazing rich amount of knowledge, which I had no idea. And one thing I learned is that, well, 6 days ago, Penrith became famous because of its football team. But now we find that Penrith Council is helping to protect the Mandaean community. And as we just learnt, if there were no Mandaeans in the world, then there'd be no life on Earth. So, I'm glad that's happening. And sorry we couldn't get to all the questions in the chat, and I'm sure I know I had more questions, and I'll certainly be researching, and I'm glad you've published some, so it's all findable.
Yes.
So thank you, I appreciate it. And Perry, over to you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much, and may God bless you with great life, light, love, purity, and peace, which is the 5 important elements in as a codes for any being on earth and in the universe. So God bless you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Great group.
Thank you, and God bless you. And it's a marathon meeting, the first time that we have almost 3 hours. Thank you very much, Professor. And I know they have a lot of questions. Maybe another time we will have another session. And so we can conclude this meeting, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria.